Welcome to He
Me
and We podcast. Hi, welcome back, guys, to He and Me and We podcast. This is John.
And this is Tina. How is everybody today? Hopefully you are either have gone and voted in early voting.
Yeah.
Or you have submitted your ballot early. Or you are ready to wait in the lines tomorrow to go and vote. Yes? This is our greatest hope.
I hope so. We hope so. We hope everybody voted already.
And if you haven't voted already, that you take the time and get out there to go and vote. What dragged us in a little bit earlier than our normal regular podcast submission is we've been watching the news. Now, most of you may not know we live overseas. But, even though we live overseas, we monitor everything that goes on back home because America is our home, all right? I am born in America. I am born in Wisconsin, actually. Grew up in Green Bay and went to university in Wisconsin and worked in Texas for many, many, many years and worked many years in Wisconsin as well. And what is dragging me on is that I am extremely disturbed by a lot of things that I'm seeing on the news. And I'm very saddened because I really felt like I knew my fellow Americans, my fellow Wisconsinites, my fellow Texans better than what I'm seeing right now. Let me start with Green Bay. I was born in Milwaukee, but grew up in Green Bay, graduated from St. Joseph Academy in Green Bay. But went to Lombardi Junior High School, went to MacArthur Elementary School in Green Bay. So I'm not just some transplant into Green Bay. I grew up and went there. I went to St. Peter and Paul Catholic School, okay? So I've lived on all sides of Green Bay. And when I graduated high school, I left in 1989. Now, what drags me to this? John, you saw the news firsthand, so I want you to tell what happened in Green Bay during a recent rally.
Well, what really bothers me is there is no social distance. And about a couple of days ago, because some of you guys know I'm kind of bilingual in other language, basically Arabic and English and some other language. I was listening to Al Jazeera English, and they were talking about the Green Bay campaign for Donald Trump, and the coronavirus cases went up to the roof. Some of you guys may not be aware of it, but the cases is up to 650,000, if not almost 250,000 cases in Green Bay because of there is no social distance in Donald Trump campaign. And the deaths near 5,000 so far. And they probably the regular media will never talk about that, but Al Jazeera, since it's Arabic broadcast, they don't really care, but they were just giving a brief about the situation there. You may love Donald Trump, hate Donald Trump, but your safety comes first. But it seems like a lot of people don't care. The president is not wearing mask, so hallelujah, let's not wear a mask too. And this is as a result of that, Green Bay is suffering right now. And a lot of hospitals cannot accept more patients because it's filled with coronavirus patients.
Now, I need to question my friends. I don't care if you're Republican. I don't care if you're a Democrat. Here's my question. When Al Jazeera, let me make this abundantly clear to you, okay? Al Jazeera is probably the thorn in the side of most Arab countries, okay? For those of you who are not familiar. Most of you know Al Jazeera because they were the ones that would take and broadcast Al-Qaeda videos, okay? Now, the fact that Al Jazeera English came to Green Bay, as some of my friends would call it, Green Blah, okay, came to Green Bay to talk about what's going on should be of significance to you. And do you know why? Because something is wrong. And if there's one news agency that's going to drag it out, Al Jazeera is the one. And they aren't mandated by Trump. They aren't mandated by the GOP,
Nobody.
the Democratic Party. They are funded on their own, my friends, okay?
It's actually sponsored by their own government.
Their government is what pays for them, okay, to do their news broadcasts. So they go where they want to, they do what they want to, and they tell it like it is, okay? And it doesn't mean that it's false because it came from them. I'm telling you, you're probably going to get a more accurate news broadcast from some of these overseas news outlets, whether you realize it or not. Trust me, we living over here now for 10 years, we have seen the vast difference in coverage, and it's frightening. You know, what we think we live in a democratic and free press and freedom of speech has now changed. And we're seeing people's tweets being suppressed. My own husband's Facebook page, of which he does news, is being suppressed in Arabic nonetheless, because he reports on coronavirus cases. Not, rub garlic on your armpits to take and cure coronavirus. No, he's reporting about coronavirus cases. He's coroning. I apologize for that. He is not coroning. He is reporting about coronavirus and the different statistics globally that some people don't want to hear. And what happens? They suspend his account.
3 times.
Okay? And he's not being racist. He's not saying anything. He's reporting the news. Okay? And they're suppressing it. Or they don't like a headline about Donald Trump, and so they suppress it.
Yep.
You know? Yep. And that's democracy. That's the democratic way. That's freedom of press. That's freedom of speech. You know, and quite frankly, I'm not even worried about him. What I want you to realize, my friends, is that there is a whole lot going on that you are not being told about. If you think that these Trump trains are patriotism, what he is doing, and I'm going to come at you like this, because not only does John have a news website, but he also has a master's degree in Homeland Security. Let's be abundantly clear. And it's not from overseas. It's from a American university. Okay? So he's abundantly aware of what extremism looks like. He actually did his master's thesis on recognizing extremism online. And my friend, I've watched this and read about it along with him. And what you're seeing and the flames that the Republican Party are fanning when they say Trump trains, and you're seeing bridges being blocked with cars so people can't go and vote. Do we not see that as voter suppression? Do you not see that that's intimidation? And the very definition, if you go and do a quick Goog of what extremism is and what domestic terrorism is, it is the intimidation or violent acts to benefit a political, sociological, or religious ideology. So my dear friends, in 2019, the Department of Homeland Security saw that there was a ginormous, and this is my own made-up word, a ginormous increase in alt-right-wing extremism. And since he was being peppered in the media about being racist, they came up with a whole new strategic plan about how to deal with countering violent extremism within the homeland itself. When the Department of Homeland Security, and let me make you abundantly aware of this, when they take, and normally they do things in four-year reports, okay? They took and did a midstream report to take their focus off of foreign terrorism, okay?
Yep.
And to take most of their focus off of there and brought it back into the homeland. And why? Why, my friends? Because there is such a enormous increase of online alt-right extremism, and it's not just alt-right extremism. We also have our good friends at Antifa, and we have our good friends with, certain movements that are occurring, and
on both sides.
On both sides.
Right.
There's extremism on both sides. But where they paid most of their attention in this DHS report, and all you have to do is go and take and Google the 2019 Department of Homeland Security Strategic Plan to Countering Violent Extremism in America. And just take a read. There's a fact sheet. So if the 23 pages is too much, there's a little fact sheet that has all of the bullet point for you. Okay? And, they're seeing it, but yet the government itself is still going. Your president is fanning those flames. And so these Trump trains that are allowing voter suppression to occur, and people are cheering it, and your president is saying, that's patriotism. It's not patriotism. It is not in any way, shape, or form. And do we realize just how ridiculous you look to the rest of the world? We are supposed to be the beacon of democracy. We are supposed to be the beacon of what is pure and right about freedom of speech, about freedom of religion, about freedom to take and vote and do things that are not being told to you by your government. My God. And yet, it's like it looks like a bunch of sheep just going, yes, that's good. That's fantastic. I love it. And I can't even believe that this is happening. And even more people. When a man makes fun of people that are disabled, makes fun of people that are disabled. Remember when he was campaigning and John McCain was there? A veteran who got his disability from when he was a prisoner of war, unlike our president who never served anything except himself and his interests and his cronies, but felt it was okay to take and make fun of them, right? And even during his campaign speeches, made fun of disabled people. And yet his wife, the First Lady, has an anti-bullying campaign. How can you possibly have an anti-bullying campaign? And I feel bad for her because you know what? She's stuck in the middle of this nonsense.
No, she's not.
Well, let me finish because I'm a little hot here. You can talk about that in a minute. Okay? And yet he bullies and bullies. He takes and makes fun of senior citizens. And then I see senior citizens lined up for a rally in Michigan. He is the one who is responsible for the majority of your cohorts who are living in nursing homes that are dying left and right from coronavirus and its complications. And yet you're standing behind him and saying, thank you so much. He's 74 years old. He's well past the age of retirement and is considered a senior citizen. And yet you're making fun of John McCain, who's only 4 years older than you, and talking about his diminished capacity. Shall we talk? Pot, kettle, black. Okay? But that's not even the half of it. That's just not even the half of it. And then I see Latino voters lining up. I see Latino voters lining up and gonna get on the Trump train. My friends, as Latinos, and I, born of a Puerto Rican father and a Danish mother. So I have a little bit of right to speak about it. Okay? My maiden name, Torres. Okay? And you get behind a man. Now, whether you're documented, not documented, the point of the matter is that as Latinos, we should support each other no matter what. And this is what's going to kill every nation, not only in Latin America, Central America, South America, and the Caribbean. Everybody thinks they're better than each other. The Mexicans don't like the Puerto Ricans. The Puerto Ricans don't like the Dominicans. The Dominicans don't like the El Salvadorians. And it can go on and on and on. But if everyone got together and were united and supported each other, you would be probably one of the strongest nations and ethnic groups in the world. My God, the natural resources that you have in your countries, yes? But instead, we like to talk about each other and how we're better than this one, and they're not educated, and they don't talk right, and this and that, and back and forth, and on and on. And so when every Latino gets out there and stands behind a man who considers Hispanics to be criminals, and again, I'm going to refer you to the DHS document that I was telling you about, because in that DHS document in 2019, it talks about protecting the borders from criminals and rapists and terrorists. Now, what Arabs are crossing the southern border, my friends? And I don't think many Canadians are trying to cross into America. So, who are they referring to? And it's shameful. Shameful, whether you were born in the country or you weren't born in the country. You live there now, and if you have citizenship and you thumb your nose at other people that are Latino and build that wall, really? And what about your daughter that's dating an undocumented person? You're going to build the wall and then pay a mule to take them over? And we see how strong his wall worked out when the hurricane came through. Do y'all remember that? The hurricane came through Corpus Christi, and if I'm not mistaken, I can't even think of not El Paso, for God's sake. What is it? I can't remember. The very southern border. And that big old wall, a good gust of wind, and it was just like when the three little pigs built their house of straw. Guess what? It went with the wind. And then, what's even more egregious is when I see African Americans taking and getting on this train. I'm sorry. Shame on Kanye. Of course, Kanye's crazy, so allegedly. I'll say that. Allegedly. Okay? Him supporting Trump. Then let's talk about our codeine sipping, allegedly. Lil Wayne was brought into the mix, and our good friend Ice Cube. So he could take and provide some consultant work for Mr. Trump as to how to get the black voters out there. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Do we need to remember where Ice Cube came from? NWA and F the police? Because I sure remember that. And our good friend Lil Wayne. Oh, Mr. Syrup Scissor Sippin', skateboard riding. And bless your heart, baby, if you want to drink codeine all day long, allegedly, have at it. And he brings you into the White House to take and get some insight as to how to work with the African American population? Are you serious? What you should have done is spit in his face. But no, we're up there glad handing. Do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of when Elvis was so hopped up on all kinds of medicines, pills. Yes, we all remember. And he wanted to take and be some special DEA agent. And there he had his picture taken with Nixon. And then he was on the toilet. How many years later, dying from prescription abuse and overdosing from it? But, okay, sure. Do we not see that you're just being dragged through and used? Because at the end of the day, do you think he's going to care about you or your community? Does anyone remember, of course, because I'm going to tell my age, okay? I was born in 1971. And I remember in the 80s when all the yuppies were like in New York City, and people, all you have to do is look at Pose, for God's sake. If anybody watches Pose on FX, great show, love it. I think it's funny. There's an episode where Angel is talking about Trump Tower. And they say he has an actual toilet that's made of gold. You know, okay? But Does anyone else remember that they were also taking Manhattan apart at that time? Because Manhattan wasn't a great place to be. Okay, it was full of prostitutes and red light district show kind of places, peep show places, that kind of thing. It wasn't safe, etc. So in order to take and do that, guess what Donald Trump did to all the people that he didn't deem worthy enough to live in his buildings? Yes, and that includes you, my fellow African American friends. He booted you out. And then you're going to stand, you vote for him, you spit in the face of people that were disenfranchised by this man, that lost their homes, that are disabled, that are handicapped, that are elderly. A vote for him, honestly, constitutes spitting in the face of every single person. And now we just read on the news that at one of his rallies, some late night rally, I don't know, maybe, another super spreader, fire Fauci. What? Because a man who has decades of scientific experience behind him is saying that you're a moron? You want to fire a person? Fire Fauci. Dude, do you not see just how sheepish you're acting? It's like, okay, that's what you said. Shameful. People, you're better than this. You are better than this. Women. Oh my God, do you really even want me to get started? Women that want to take and sit and vote for a man who, he got tired of Miss Ivana, okay? Ivanka's mother. Got tired of her. She was old news. Watch the movie First Wife Club. Who's in there? Ivana Trump. He got tired of her and moved on up to who? Who did he cheat with? Yeah, that's right, Marla Maples. Right? And then after Marla Maples, people, seriously? And then do we need to take and talk about Melania? Bless her heart. Baby girl was what? 4th? And then, he's been cheating on her too. Melania's not a bad looking girl. Woman. I'm sorry, I apologize because I will refer to her as a woman. She's not a bad looking woman at all. Okay? But she's just one in the line of many. He decided to cheat with a prostitute who liked to pee on him. And this is what's representative. This is what's representative and your Trump trains and where you're going to go with your vote. My God. People. And then all of these flames that he's fanning and the racial divide that he's putting throughout this country. Are you not seeing what's going on? Why is Washington, D.C.? Why is New York City? Why is Chicago? Why are Californians boarding up their windows and their stores and everything? Why? Why has Walmart put back on display guns and ammunition? You ever think about that? Stop and think. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. But one's got to wonder, my friend, why is that happening? Why are they doing it? Because what? They think that the Black Lives Matter movement is going to be coming through? No. They're ready because he is prepping to get every which way he can, either taking and bringing, contesting every race. In Texas alone, my friends in Texas, he didn't, in Harris County, he didn't want over, I believe it was more than 150,000 votes, early votes counted. And why? Why? Because some of you used some logic and opted to take and do a drive-through ballot. And he didn't want those counted. Really? If you think things are bad now, another 4 years, and you're not going to even see the country that you know now. Now, let's talk about what happened. Was this in Louisiana? I'm going to play something for you. This is from CNN, okay? What day did this happen on, John?
I believe this was yesterday.
Okay. We watched this at lunchtime, our time, here where we live, okay? CNN reporter, she is going to describe how, within a matter of an hour, she was subjected to 3 racist attacks, and this was in an airport. So, in Louisiana. Let's take a listen.
And Asian Americans are reporting an increase in racist encounters after one of my CNN colleagues, Amara Walker, experienced 3 such incidents during just one trip to New Orleans International Airport. She talked about it online, on Twitter. She wrote, quote, "I hate that I have to say this, but I belong. We Asian Americans belong. I was born and raised in the U.S. I am as American as apple pie, and I am as American as Korean barbecue. I am American. Please don't question me about that fact, ever." Amara Walker is joining us now. Amara, thank you for writing about this. I think this was so important for people to understand what a lot of Asians and Asian Americans in the U.S. have been going through. Tell us what happened to you.
And that's why I wrote about it. I wanted to be a voice for so many of us Asian Americans who don't speak out when these kinds of things happen. And I do want to say, Brianna, if I had encountered just one racially charged incident yesterday, I wouldn't have probably posted about it. But it was the fact that it happened back to back to back within a span of an hour, Brianna, is what really shook me to my core. And right now, I have to admit, I'm shaking right now. I still can't believe that we went through this, that I went through this. Okay, so here's what happened. First incident, I'm walking through the airport. An older gentleman stops. He pulls down his mask, looks at me, and says ni hao, which is hello in Chinese, and then ching chong, which is a racial slur that's been used for decades. And I was stunned. I mean, this has happened to me before, sadly, but every time it happens, it shocks me. And like I've done in the past, I just kept walking. I didn't know what to say. And he walked away, and the more I thought about it, my blood was just boiling. And thankfully, I ran into him inside the terminal. He was standing right behind me when I was trying to buy souvenirs for my husband and daughter. And I turned around and I said to him in a really stern voice, I said, "Do you understand what you said to me was racist and it was racially charged? Do you understand, sir?" And he kind of looked at me with a smug look, and he just said, I don't know what you're talking about," and he walked away.
Wow.
And so then I walked to the gate where my producer was sitting, and I was like, "You won't believe what just happened. I'm really upset. Here's what happened." And I'm not kidding. As if on cue, literally within like 5 minutes, a young man walks up right in front of me while I'm sitting at my gate, and he's not wearing a mask. He comes right up to my face and says, "Hey, do you speak English?" And I was like, I can't believe this is happening. And the first thing, I shot back immediately because I was already angry. And I said to him, "Why would you assume that I don't speak English? Tell me, why would you assume I don't speak English?" And he said, well, no, what language do you speak? And I said, "Well, obviously English, but I also speak Spanish," because I knew he was expecting that I would say Chinese or Japanese or Korean. Anyway, I mean, and then he started to mumble and speak incoherently. It sounded like he was mocking the Asian language. My producer was really disturbed by all this. And also the people who were sitting at the gate started yelling at him to get away from me because I kept telling him, "You got to leave me alone. We're in a pandemic, put on a mask."
Because he was getting close. He was not wearing a mask, and he was getting close to you.
Exactly.
Right.
And so he was in my personal space.
And then your producer basically got security, right? Got a police officer, and then what happened?
Yeah, he interjected, so the officer, this is where, talk about pouring salt into a gaping wound, right? I mean, I told the officer what happened, Brianna, and my producer, who was upset, said, "Yeah, and, this guy was saying racial slurs to her. Can you believe that?" The police officer stopped. He approached my producer, literally, again, almost nose to nose, and again, we're in a pandemic. And he said very angrily, "That is not racist. Asking someone if they speak English, that is not racist, okay? Do you understand me?" And I mean, this police officer was, I would say, 6'4", 6 foot. I mean, he was huge. And I was intimidated. Everyone around us was watching. My poor producer was, both nervous and scared. And we said, okay, fine, it wasn't racist. And he walked away. They did track him down, but I was so shaken by all of this and so disturbed that my producer kind of shooed me onto the plane and said, just you got to get away from this, But I do want to say that my producer was extremely defensive of me. And also there was about 5 or 6 people who were sitting at the gate who came to my defense and were apologizing for no reason. They had nothing to apologize for, but they expressed their shock.
Yeah, I mean, it's thank goodness that they were there also just to kind of back you up and support you. But you...
So, do you think that this would normally happen in a normal environment? If I'm not mistaken, hadn't one of the candidates been in town earlier having a rally? Yeah. And this occurred. This is where I'm also going to take and tell you a little personal story of my own. This is not the country that my great-grandfather fought in World War I for, nor is that the country that my grandfather fought in the Korean War for. Or maybe some of your grandfathers fought in the Vietnam War, your parents fought in the Gulf War. That is not what America is about. I will tell you what happened 13 years ago. I had given birth to my son. He was 4 months old. Now, let me preface this by, this happened in Texas, in Houston, at Walmart. At Walmart on, I believe, it was Highway 6 in Houston. And I had gone to buy some clothes for my son and diapers. He was 4 months old at the time. Now, I was born Catholic, raised Catholic, and opted to convert to Islam in 2004. This was my own choice. I did not convert because of my husband. I met my husband 3 years later, so I converted on my own and not for marriage, as some women do, and that's okay. I'm not dogging that. I wear hijab, which means I cover my head, all right? That's part of my faith. That's part of my modesty. That's part of what I feel comfortable wearing. I also wear long sleeve shirts. In America, I don't wear like an abaya like I do here in where I live. But I was wearing a long sleeve shirt and a pair of pants. And, this is what I'm comfortable with. Many Christian, sects wear long skirts. They wear, long sleeves. They grow their hair long, okay? And, there's many Jewish people that also cover themselves, that cover their hair. And, they don't encounter the same kind of things like we do. And, of course, we're at the height of Islamophobia at the time. So if you see me, you would think I look like the whitest white girl. I've got as pale a white skin as you can have and big blue eyes, okay? And, like your typical American Barbie, okay? Except that I wear hijab. That's it. I cover my hair and I cover my arms. All right. So I'm at Walmart at the time. I'm at the checkout counter, and I'm putting my son's clothes, okay, and the diapers and formula and stuff on there. And my son is in the cart, okay, and this woman behind me is speaking Spanish. And, oh, yeah, I understand Spanish and I understand English, okay? So let's continue. So the woman behind me says in Spanish to her friend, why doesn't she go back to her own country with her 5 husbands? And I turned around because I understand Spanish. I looked at her and I said to her in Spanish, I said, I understand Spanish and I speak English. So you want to try that again in English for me? And she said, yeah, why don't you go back to your own country with your 5 husbands? And I turned around and I'm like, where is this coming from? What did I do to you, you killer? So I looked at and mind you, there's a line of people behind us, okay? All I was trying to do was check out my stuff, but I am not one to back down. And so I said to the cashier, I said, call security, please. And she wouldn't do anything. And people are turning around and they're looking at me. Nobody offered to help. And this woman starts and she's like, do you want to meet me out in the parking lot and we can take care of it out there? So my Puerto Rican in me was absolutely game on. Let's go. And so I again turned around to her. I said, listen, my friend, I'm Puerto Rican. You're Hispanic. What seems to be your problem? What did I do to you? You're a killer. And again, I asked the cashier, now this is the third time, please call security, and she would not. So I picked my son up, and I took my cart, and I said, you can take the $400 that I would have taken and paid for all of these goods, as opposed to her, one case of Corona behind us, and you're going to lose that sale. Where's your manager? So then I walk out to find the manager, and by this time, the woman behind me has finished her purchase, and the manager's like, there's nothing we can do. We can't help you. Sorry, we can't do anything. Is that right? I'm being threatened. Are you serious right now? Oh, okay. So as I'm in the parking lot, this woman starts coming after me. And I turned around and I looked at her and I'm like, I have done absolutely nothing to you, to your family, nor have I made any kind of racial slur to you, unlike you have to me. And then I repeated it into Spanish for her, just to make sure she understood. And again, everybody's watching it, everybody's taking and gawking, and nobody offering to help. Is that the kind of country we live in today? Is that acceptable? Women that are Asian are being picked on and called out. You know, we have Hispanics that are being called wetback. And let me tell you, that happened all the way back when I was a little girl. My grandparents try to pronounce your last name different because, you know, the way you pronounce it makes it sound like it's Hispanic, and we don't want people to think that you're Hispanic, right? You know, this is not the country. This is not the country, my friends, that was built like that, was built on that kind of foundation. You can do better. You can be better. I beg you. I implore you. Okay? Get out there and vote. Vote with a conscience. Even if you want to vote for him, vote for him. But my friends, look at who's voting, who's running in your local elections, because those are happening also. Okay? And think about who you're voting for. And recognize that there's nobody helping you, because you and I are not the average person who has a stock market or has Bitcoin or has, you know, penthouses and offshore accounts, or are making millions and billions of dollars and pay $750 in taxes. No. We, the little people, are suffering, and there aren't more jobs. There isn't a better economy, and it isn't coronavirus that did it. Okay? It's the culmination of a whole lot of things. And if you don't get out there with a conscience and vote and do the right thing and ask for systemic change to occur, we are going to have major problems, my friend. Major, major problems. Because it's not just me as a Muslim. It's me as a woman. It's me as a Latina. It is my husband as an Arab male. It could be your husband, boyfriend, child, African American, Asian, South Asian. But if we think that it's okay to make fun of people that are handicapped, to make fun of people that are ill, to make fun of the elderly, the most vulnerable of our populations, then we deserve everything that we get. And before I cry, I can't. I just can't. Because you know what? Our parents are elderly, and that could be them. So I implore you, make a difference and get out and vote. Thank you very much for joining us today. I appreciate it. And I really, really implore you to make sure that you share this, you download it, make sure other people get to hear it. Thank you so much for joining the He, Me, and
We podcast.
Have a great day, guys. Bye.